Do you even really need a home inspection if you're buying a new construction home? Why waste the money? That is probably one of the top things people ask me when they're buying a new construction home. I'm going to talk about that today. And I'm also going to tell you 2 or 3, depending on the house, tests or inspections that you should absolutely never skip with new construction homes. I'm going to talk about that as well, so let's jump into it. Okay, so the short answer for home inspections, should you really get one? My answer is yes, yes, always yes. And why I say that, things slip through the cracks. Yes, there are professional home builders out there, but you will find no matter what builder you're at, there are different superintendents, different inspectors, and different standards of things at each job site. So you may be building a home with a very big, well-known builder here in Utah, not to name anybody, so we'll say XYZ Home Builder. But XYZ Home Builder has a different superintendent in South Jordan running the houses being built there than their superintendent in Lehi. So that's just one example. And people often think, well, the builder's warranty covers anything that goes wrong for 1 year. Yeah, but do you want to wait until you're moved in to find something to go wrong? And I have a horrible story later in this video that involved flooding on a new construction home, but I'm going to talk about that with one of the tests that I always recommend you get done. Now, I did have some buyers who bought new construction and there was 0 attic insulation, and it passed not only the builder's inspections and the builder's checks, but the city's as well. Nobody caught that there was 0 attic insulation. Now, let's be honest, as a buyer, are you really going to climb up and inspect your attic? Most people don't even think about that. So imagine if my buyers had moved into this house with no inspection and had $600-700 AC bills in the summer, or couldn't stay super warm in the wintertime because there was no attic insulation. Luckily, it was easily fixed before they moved in. They didn't have to be inconvenienced with, insulation getting all over their stuff after they've moved in and having to logistically deal with that. So that was one valuable thing. I have a client currently under contract with new construction, and the home inspector told them that this year alone, and it's only April, he has done 3 home inspections like that, where new construction has missed attic insulation and it has passed the city. They've gotten their certificate of occupancy. Nobody caught it. So it's not that uncommon for one inspector to find 3 houses in 4 months of that kind of stuff happening. Now, there are also other things that can be uncovered that a home inspector is going to know better than a buyer. I have had this happen with a new construction, but the HVAC system in the basement was placed over the cover. Now, the home inspector said it was a sewer clean out that you would not be able to pop the lid off of because the HVAC system was on it. The builder said it was a stop and waste cover. So either way, that's not something I would have caught. My buyers didn't notice. So there are things like that. The roof. Now, most builders don't let you get on the roof, but some do, and some inspectors have drones that they can inspect the roof. We are a high wind area sometimes, so you could still see shingles that have blown off even though it's new construction. This one recently, the screws or the nails for the vents, some of them had caulking in them and some of them did not. And so what the inspector was explaining is that if they don't have caulking, they rust out faster. And when they rust out, they pop out. So things like that as a buyer, like I'd never heard that before. That was a new one to me. So, there's things like that that are so incredibly useful with a home inspection that I always recommend it. Now, depending on the home and the builder, a lot of these builders are putting in radon mitigation systems. So that is one test here in Utah that it doesn't matter if it's new construction or not. You should always get a radon test if there's not a radon mitigation system in the house. But like I said, a lot of builders are already putting them in, so that may not be necessary. The second inspection that I always recommend that you get with new construction is a sewer scope. Now, keep in mind, all of these inspections are at your expense as the buyer. You're not required to do them, but they're highly recommended. And a sewer scope, again, a lot of people think it's brand new. Why do I need a sewer scope? I had clients who did not do a sewer scope, bought new construction. They moved all the way out to Utah from back east, came home to their new house. Their laundry was on the second floor, started doing laundry. Their basement luckily was unfinished, but completely flooded. It turns out they didn't hook up the sewer line out on the street. So everything backed up. They literally had to come dig out the street and connect the sewer line. Now, if they had a sewer scope, that would have been caught. Now, all of that was covered by the builder, but they didn't reach out to me and tell me that this was happening until after. And unfortunately, the builder was just like, oh, you can just walk to the model home. They didn't put them up in a hotel. They couldn't use the bathroom. They had to walk to the model home to use the restroom or anything like that. And so the builder left them in their house and just did the work. So it was crazy. And inspectors actually comment on that happening with new construction. So again, you think it's not going to pass the city inspections and they would never sign off on it, but stuff happens. So absolutely always get a sewer scope so you don't have a situation like that. And my third and final test that you should always do is a meth test. And people are always shocked when I say that. And I'm going to tell you why. We do continuing education as agents, and I have done meth classes with Meth Mob, who's kind of like the authority, I think, here in Utah for meth. All things meth, remediation, everything. And surprisingly, they say it comes up more often than people think with new construction, even though nobody has lived there. But if the construction workers are smoking or using meth and they're at the property, they could be touching things and it could be in your air vents. It could, because they're smoking it or whatever. So don't underestimate meth testing for new construction. I unfortunately sold a house this year that my seller did not use me when he purchased this place. And the buyer did a meth test and trace levels. So it was not, remediation was not required by EPA standards, but there were trace levels of meth. And he was like, what? Completely floored by this because he didn't do a meth test when he moved in. But that expense was passed on to him. Even though he legally was not required to remediate the home, the right thing for him to do was to have meth cleaning done on the air ducts and the venting system, have the cabinets all cleaned. He went through that expense, and that cost him a few $1,000s just because of trace levels. So get a meth test even with new construction, and especially on existing homes. My son purchased a home and I said, absolutely, you still need to get a meth test. And it was existing, but still, I always recommend it. It's shocking when you take some meth education classes to learn some of the things to look for and things you don't understand would happen. Now, more and more properties here in Utah are selling with ADUs. This is a great opportunity with a meth test to have a baseline level, and that way you would be surprised to hear a lot of meth homes in Utah are because of aging parents and adult children living in the basement and the adult children using, and the parents don't even know. And so same concept with an ADU rental. If you unfortunately have people in your basement or wherever your ADU is, it's good to have that baseline to say, hey, I had a meth test before you moved in and there was nothing, and now you're moving out and there's something. So definitely those are the tests I recommend with new construction. A general home inspection, if nothing else, to have a list for your builder of things they need to fix under their warranty or before they move in. 2, a radon test if there's not a radon mitigation system. 3, a sewer scope. And 4, a meth test. So if you're thinking about making a real estate move, I'd love to connect with you. Shoot me a text or give me a call. That is the best way to reach me. But as always, make it a great day.